Eswatini. And Mugwela Lambwa. Translation, welcome to Eswatini. My name is Lungelo Bujuli. I'm the Vice President of Esnika. I come from an from a primary cooperative called Ishatandela Multi-Purpose Cooperative. I'd like to start my presentation by saying this presentation is a continuation. I'm speaking to Esnika as a whole from my Indaba speech last year about group economics. And to start my presentation, I'd like to first start with two personal stories. I think it will be a good baseline for all of us. So these stories are about my own personal journey in entrepreneurship. When I got back home from study, I was fortunate enough to have seed capital to start my own business. Did well, but at some point I hit a ceiling. The banks were trying to find me the way I needed funding. I wasn't getting work as much as I'd like, and if I did get work, I'd go back to the same problems. I wouldn't get funding, and even if I did get funding, I would get funded in the way that those financial institutions wanted, which didn't necessarily work for me. And yes, I could access the funds, but at the end of the day, I knew that if I accessed them the way they wanted them, for me to access them, I was not going to be able to repay them back. I'd just like to leave that matter over there. First story, please, next slide. And then the second story about entrepreneurship that I want to speak about is about my private cooperative. So how that was established is that we had a group of young people, my friends, all of us young professionals in different spheres of being young professionals. And obviously on Fridays and on weekends we'd come together, have drinks and talk about life and have a good time. And then one day, one of my friends came to us and said, guys, we can't always just be meeting to drink. What else can we do with our lives? And then she told us about the cooperative philosophy, and we bought into it, and that was it. That was the birth of Ishashantle. Please stay in the slide before. And through that, we were able to first we had challenges. We wrote many proposals to UN, to EU, and all these grants facilities, and all of them came back negative. And we decided, okay, you know what, we can't keep just going back there. So we took what we'd been saving since 2016 up to 2018, and we were able to start a small farm. Also in that time, we've been very fortunate to use that platform that we built, being Shashankela, that a lot of us have been able to get trainings and have been able to travel the world. We've been through cooperatives. Some people have gone to the United States of America, to Japan, to South Africa. We also happen to be the award winners of the two Tony Alumni Startup Foundation grants, $5,000 US. And all of these things would have never been possible if we never decided to come together in this way. And this is why we need to form Youth Development Fund. So, what is a Youth Development Fund is probably the question we should be asking ourselves. I went and I looked at different definitions, but I think the one that most interested me was this one, some NGO, I forgot the name. It says the Youth Development Fund helps grants build the infrastructure and evidence needed to expand and help economically disadvantaged youth. So this fund is to help us establish infrastructure and show to the rest of the world, outside of our world, that we are viable businesses, and that's when the banks and the traditional financial systems will be helping us. Now, this is an important thing because we all know, as I said the stories before, that young people in Africa, and I just want to come back to that, the reason I shared those first stories at the beginning wasn't because I was trying to blow my own horn or my Shashankela's horn, but I was trying to show two different important concepts. The first one being is that we are all, as young people, frustrated when we get to the bank and they tell you to know, we can't give you $500,000, but we can buy you something for $500,000. Or, on the opposite side, where a lot of young people are sitting at home trying to do this one idea they have for themselves. Oh, I want to start a piggery, or I want to start this and that. And what we don't think about as young people is that it's very hard because we don't have access to capital, we don't have access to resources. But what we do have is each other. And I, and my 1 rand, and your 10 rand, and your expertise in accounting and whatever else on, that is how you build the business, that is how you build the capacity. And this now brings me back to the main point about trying to now establish this development bank. Excuse me a second, my technology is playing me. So, as I've now introduced all of that, I then went into look at different funding models because we're young people and what we want to create can't be the standard norm because we are young and we are innovative and we are dynamic and we are agile. So, I found that it was very important that we look at different funding models. In Eswatini, I just took examples from a few countries. In Eswatini, we have the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund. I think Mr. Kumar has spoken just a little bit at the beginning. If you're an individual, young person, you can get 50,000. If you're a company, 100,000. If you are a cooperative, 150,000. There's also a rural development fund where you can access it. Mrs. Gomez, who came before me, is the person to talk to this fund about, and also her boss will be coming in later, the director. The Rural Development Fund, which is more or less a grant because your collateral is your work, your output. It's not necessarily money, it's how much work you've put in, and that's how you pay back your loan. And the last one I'd like to talk about from Eswatini is the Central Bank Guarantee Scheme, where you can get up to $500,000 in Malangeni, guaranteed by the central bank as a loan. In South Africa, there was quite a few small enterprise development agency. I'd like to highlight, please go to the next one. I'd like to highlight Cooperative Initiative Scheme. South Africans, I hope you are using and noticing. This is to, as it says, successful applicants are given cash grants so that their cooperatives can obtain good quality services that will help them grow their businesses. And then it talks about which kind of businesses, it tells you that you need to be. I don't like this word about black owned, so I'd like to change that to say African Bantu. So you just have to be majority African owned, and you have to just prove that you are trying to alleviate poverty for yourself and the community around you, being registered, and so forth. Then there's many others. We have youth business support. Please go to the next slide. Sorry, I think it's dated. Umsomo Youth Fund, which also looks at helping young people franchise. I was just highlighting some of the ones I found online. And then lastly, I would like to also share what Germany thinks about funding young people, as they are the funders of us here. An extract from them was, in order to encourage self-employment in Germany, various programs and policies have been initiated within the decade. These programs provide many different services that may be divided into different categories. Category 1, what kind of support? Is this financial support, counseling or coaching, creating networks, enhancing entrepreneurship culture? Second category, target groups, unemployed, women, immigrants, disability, elderly and youth. And the third category was industry focus. Which industries are we interested in? Is it ICT? Is it creatives? And so forth. Which then brings me back to us being young people and being dynamic. So I thought, let's talk about a few funding models as well. The first funding model I talk about is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is where an idea or a project is put out, and usually a short-term project that needs funding, quick money, and then you go out and get small amounts from many people and start to fund and go on. In 2015, 34 billion was raised through this kind of funding all over the world. And another thing about it is, let's go to the next slide, is that the difference with it is that it's internet-based, because the same kind of concept is done but it's usually more paper-based and whatnot. This is supposed to be a first quick way of getting funds, and also you as a person looking for an opportunity to jump into it and get out of it in a short space of time, but also just where the future's going. Another model of funding is angel investors. An angel investor is usually an individual or small group of individuals that have access to they're usually high net individuals that basically what they want to do is either it's because but basically they see your whatever you're doing is something they're just passionate about, or they're passionate about you. Normally that's how it goes. And yes, they do want a return on investment, but they're more worried about seeing your project succeed, which is, I guess, the opposite to the next one, which is venture capitalism, which is, I believe that's where crowdfunding was born from or derived from. This is the more formalized version of it, where usually a financial institute, or through a financial institute, your company is evaluated and all sorts of things, and at that point in time, what normally happens is it's usually long-term gains, and they also want control of your business. Unlike crowdfunding, where the person who's crowdfunding you, they just put what they're putting and they trust your process. And I think that's why I had this slide to say the advantages and disadvantages of it is that yes, we usually get attached to a big company. I think probably the best venture capitalist in the world right now is Mr. Amazon. I don't know why his name just jumped out, Basil. Where if he takes over your company, he doesn't normally just take over it, he just gives you the platform to continue as the CEO of your own company, but having more resources. So that would be one of the advantages, that you now be able to access more resources, technology, research, and money to create whatever you're doing. But it's also very rigid. There's big contracts in place. Those people want to tell you how to run it and what's right and what's wrong. So those are the two differences. So before we